Congratulations. By clicking this video, this means that you're thinking about starting the Tyranids in Warhammer 40K. And as someone that plays Tyranids myself and casually rolls up the tables with models that look just like this, I can tell you playing Tyranids is incredibly fun. So by the end of today's video, you're going to know exactly what the Tyranids are, why you would want to play them, and then there's also a 1,000 point army list that you can build towards so you can experience success right away when you play the Tyranids. Now, whenever I start these videos, if you don't have the Warhammer app downloaded, I need you to go into your app store on your phone and download the Warhammer app. You need it. Stop the video, download that right now. Now, assuming that you have the app downloaded, we're going to continue. What kind of army is the Tyranid army? I'm gonna take a look at this picture. I think it does a really good job of describing what you're going to experience when you play 40K, because what you see over here are a bunch of monsters. They're similar to the one that I showed you, and then you got a bunch of little things over here running in the back. The Tyranids are a horde army, which means that you overwhelm your opponent in numbers, make it difficult for them to know what to shoot at, so that you can control space on the table. In other words, I can move my models in certain places on the table to force my opponent's movement. So when my opponents take their turns, they spend their turns doing what I want them to do. Now, that is the kind of army that the Tyranids is. So if you do not appreciate what I just said, if you do not find that fun, then maybe the Tyranids may not be for you. So because the Tyranids are a horde control army, what is their win condition? So what we have here is an example battlefield, orcs versus Tyranids. And let's imagine that we have an objective marker right here. So for new players, objective markers are points on the battlefield that you run to score points. Now, when we play based on where the objective markers are at all times. So if we have an objective marker here up to this point, we notice that our opponents are lined up there with their army over here off to the side. We often take the tiny monsters and run them as deep as we can into the backfield. And we run these tiny monsters deep into the backfield so that we can block our opponent's movement. So if I can successfully run these here and run these models here, these orcs are either going to have to go all the way around if they want to get to the objective marker, or they have to run through our models. And if they have to run through our models, that means that it's taking away their time. If you notice, they put a monster over here, a monster up front. Personally, I would keep the monsters behind these guys because the little guys kind of act like shields, and it helps to keep your big creatures safe. In other words, the creatures that deal damage, kind of like this one that I showed you over here earlier. So keep that in mind when you're playing this army. It's not so much of being like, I'm just going to run everything into you and destroy you. It's like, no, I'm going to put these models in front of your models to stop you to force you to kill these things, so that it stops you from killing the important things that I get to keep alive as long as possible. And then I'll use them all at one time in one powerful turn to kill exactly what I need to kill, to make sure that my opponent doesn't really have much left to win with. When you end games with the Tyranids, it's very often that you barely have any models left. Your opponent may kill everything that you have, but you just have scored so many points because you were blocking things the entire game that your opponent can't come back in the game even though you have no models left, because you just scored way too much. Like when I won my Warhammer 40K beginners tournament for the first time, every game that I won like 70 to 10, 90 to 15, 85 to 12. It literally ended just like that because I was doing such an important job of just blocking my opponent's models and just not letting them score. It's not about killing your opponent's models, it's about not letting them score. That's the win condition. So one of the key units that we have over here for the Tyranids is the Maleceptors. And if we take a look at this Maleceptor in general, this is a monster unit. And I don't mean like monster as in it's cool or anything. I mean like, no, it's literally keyworded as a monster. And inside the Tyranids army, there are a ton of different monsters. But the Maleceptor to me is a monster that you can play at 1,000 points, or you can play at 2,000 points. You can play in smaller games or bigger games, and it's always going to be effective because he has a really nice shooting profile where he can deal 3 damage with his shots, which feels really nice. He can kill very tanky units, and at the same time he has the ability to make it more difficult for your opponent to land their shots, which keeps your army safe. And the Maliceptor is one of those models that when you put it onto the table, your opponents see it and they go like this. Oh my god. So every time you play your Tyranid army, have at least one of these guys. In the 1,000 point list that you guys see later, the Maliceptor is a part of that list, so keep that in mind. Oh, you will always feel good spending money on a Maliceptor for your army. Next key unit that we have here is the Biovore. Now, the bane of my existence in Warhammer Space Marine 2, that video game.
Oh, I see a Biovore. I'm gonna kill it with everything I have. Hello, Biovore. Hello, Biovore. How you doing? Oh my god, no, there goes all my freaking armor. Shut up.
I hate Biovores in that game because Biovores have something called spore mines. Now, spore mines are these orbs that you see that float. Biovores essentially have the ability to shoot these mines pretty much anywhere they want on the table, and it will always succeed. So basically what you do is you shoot them into your opponent's backfield, and what ends up happening is you end up scoring points because you have models on different parts of the table, generally speaking. And remember, we're talking about, we're not trying to win by out-killing our opponents, it's more about outscoring them. And Biovores are point scoring machines. Like, there was a point in time during the Tyranids army in 10th edition where you could have multiple Biovores shoot multiple of these spore mines, and it would just turn into this thing where you would just flood the entire table with spore mines and nobody could move anywhere or do anything. It was disgusting. They nerfed it, so now only one Biovore can drop spore mines. Guys, that is how powerful Biovores are. There's only one allowed to do the spore mine ability every turn. That's how and it's still good. So if you're ever gonna you only need one Biovore in your army. Just buy one and you'll be set for the rest of your Tyranid life. Okay. The next unit that we have over here is the Zoanthrope. Now, the Zoanthropes are gonna be your heavy hitting shooting units. So these models over here deal tons of damage to your opponent's tanks or Terminators or big models. If there's something really big on the table, your Zoanthropes are probably gonna kill it. So you need, and I would even recommend getting 2 groups of 3 Zoanthropes, so you have 6 total. That way you always have something that's gonna be able to deal with your opponent's tank. Zoanthropes are nasty and they deal tons of damage, and there's ways to buff their damage that I can talk about in the future, but today's video is gonna be a bit more simple, so I'm not gonna talk about that. And what we have right here is a key combo that in the 1,000 point list that you're gonna see in a second, it exists inside that list. So what we have over here are Venomthropes, which kind of look like the Zoanthropes. They're actually 2 models that exist inside the same box, but we have Venomthropes, and then we also have Termagants, okay? These 3 little dudes over here, you run in packs of 20, and you run them in packs of 20 for a reason, because when your opponents shoot into your group of 20, let's say your group of 20 models is right here, right? And then you put the Venomthropes within 6 inches of them behind a building so nobody can shoot at the Venomthropes. The Venomthropes have a rule that say anytime a model shoots at a model that is within 6 inches of Venomthropes, they are -1 to hit. So if your opponent's guardsmen are shooting into the Termagants and they need to roll a 4 to land a hit, now they need to roll 5s, which helps to keep your Termagants alive. And the Tyranids inside the Invasion Fleet detachment, or in other words, the rule set that exists called Invasion Fleet for the Tyranids, they have an ability that allows you to bring your Termagants back to life. So let's say your opponent uses 3 models to shoot at your Termagants. They're all -1 to hit, so let's say out of 20, they kill 6. Now, at the beginning of your next turn, you can activate that ability, and what'll end up happening is that you may bring 3 or 4 back to life. So your opponent spent an entire turn cycle with multiple units to kill 2 Termagants, which feels horrible, but I'm telling you, it wins games. When you're playing against other people that are not as experienced, it is an extremely powerful combo, and it's really good. And it helped me win a tournament. So I'm telling you, it's a really nice combination. So over here, we have the sample army list. Now, I told you to download the 40K app for a reason, because this is where the army list is gonna be. This is something that you can build towards. I would recommend that you look at what we have over here, scrolling up and down, and you just create a list and copy it exactly. This is 1,000 points, okay? You're gonna select invasion fleet rules, and then you're gonna add everything that you see over here, okay? We have a Carnifex called Old One Eye that you're gonna add to your army over here. That's gonna do a lot of damage. We're gonna add a group of Termagants like you see over here. Make sure that there are 20 Termagants inside that group. The reason I say that is because you can go over here and you can plus or minus the amount of models that you have. Set that to 20. Then you're gonna add a Biovore, a Carnifex, 2 Lictors, a Maliceptor, the Venomthrope like I talked about earlier, and 2 groups of Zoanthropes. Now, this adds up to 995 points. I don't know when you're going to be watching this at some point in the future. The point value may change. So what I would recommend, let's say if Carnifexes end up costing more points or Maliceptors go up in points, you know, you could always go over here and look at different models. You know, the Exocrine may not be a bad choice for you to add to the army. You may also want to add a Screamer Killer because that comes inside the Leviathan box. You may have one of these lying around as well. The monsters are not so important. The most important things are the things that I talked about earlier, as in the Maliceptor you'd want to keep, the Venomthropes you want to keep, the Zoanthropes you want to keep, and the Termagants you want to keep, and the Biovore you want to keep. Everything else like the Lictors and the Carnifexes you can kind of swap out for whatever you want. So just keep that in mind when you're building your army. Build around this list. This will also be in the description below as well. That way, by the time you're done building 1,000 points or painting 1,000 points, you have something that you can go to a store with and be like, hey, I have 1,000 points to play, let's play a game. And you're gonna be in a really good position to win a lot of games with that list. So if you are interested in that list, learning more, I can do a strategy guide specifically for that list and go really deep into understanding a lot more about how you play this list, so that you can experience success when you play Warhammer, because it will take you time to assemble all those models and to get them painted to potentially play games at some point in the future. So if this video gets to 150 likes, I will create that strategy guide specifically for that list right there, okay? There's a comment section below. I am understanding that Warhammer 40K is a lot. So if you have any questions, please leave it there in the comments below and I'll do my best to respond. We also have a ton of helpful people inside this community as well. So be aware, people, that if you leave a question, you may get responses from subscribers inside this community to help you along your Warhammer 40K journey. That is an incredibly amazing decision. You're gonna have so much fun playing this game, trust me, because you're gonna be at a table with things like this, just mauling people, and it's gonna be great, okay? Whenever I end these videos, I always say the same thing. Always remember, eat healthy, okay? Work out every single day. Most importantly, everybody's got to remember to believe in themselves, all right? Peace out, people. Have fun, dude. This game is so good.
You need help with that game? Oh, there's a Lictor on me. Leave me alone. Oh my god, I'm walking into 45 spare mines, dude.
Stand firm against the remaining scum.
Oh my god, dude, I barely survived that. Yeah, we needed the Dreadnought.